With the release of Pokemon Legends Arceus, everybody's been having so much fun with the game, and it's taken the world by storm. I wanted to dive into this game and see the strongest mons that come out of this game competitively, because that's just me. I'm a nerd. I love the math behind it. I love the analytical stuff behind it. I want to just dive in. If you guys are excited for the video and you're excited, make sure to please leave a like and support this video, as it does take a lot of time to make this video. Let me know what you guys think down below on who mons are very strong within the game. I would love to hear you guys' thoughts on that. With that, let's jump into the video. I want to do somewhat of a top 5 in this, guys. So coming in the number 5 slot, we're gonna have Ursa Luna. This mon is absolutely powerful as hell. Its first 3 stats is literally settle it down into stone that the thing is a monster. It hits really hard. It's really tanky. That 45 and that 50 stat in special attack and speed literally don't matter, because when you have base 130 HP, 80 speed def, and 105 defense, you're so tanky, you'll be eating any move that is super effective against you. I've seen this thing live ice beams, hydro pumps. I've seen it live in the rain. I've seen it swallow up close combats. This thing is a monster. Now, Ursaring was already really good. It is an evolution of Ursaring, so not a Hisuian form. And standard Ursaring was already really good. I think its base offensive stat was 120, 130. So now seeing 140, that is sky high, guys. Sky high. It maxes out at 416, and its HP stat also maxes out close to 500 at 464. This thing is ridiculous. With its SPDEF stat almost at 300, sitting at 284, coupled with that HP stat of 464, this thing is a monster, and it will be living hits. God knows how this thing will die. Obviously, it depends what moves it gets in the future. I do hope to think it's Stealth Rock. Yes, I know I'm crazy for saying that, but I kind of do hope that it does now that it's a ground type. But let's look into it, right? So it has 2 immunities, being Ghost and Electric. And honestly speaking, 2 of the weirdest immunities to think of. And I used to think for the longest time this was our only normal ground. Well, no, Diggers B fans, I see y'all. There are more out there than meets the eye. This thing is very strong defensively as well, too. Having 2 immunities and 2 resistances is honestly not bad. Now, I kind of wish it had more resistances. Its typing is okay, being normal ground. More offensively, if anything, its typing is going to be more scary, because defense-wise, you only are resistant to 2 types, being rock and poison, which is like, okay, sure, right? Who doesn't like resisting rock? Because you become into entry hazards for free. But poison is a weird typing to resist. Doesn't really matter, right? You're weak to very common stuff like water, grass, ice, and fighting, especially being water and fighting, 2 very common typings. You're basically just gonna have to sit there and eat those moves. But seeing how bulky this mon is, he doesn't really care about things that hit him on a super effective level. He really matters more on being bulky enough to just hit things ridiculously hard. So if you slap a choice band on the guy, he will be dealing an immense amount of damage. Not to mention his abilities, Guts and Bulletproof, are absolutely amazing. Now, a lot of people do actually not know what Bulletproof does. So if you don't know what Bulletproof does, it basically makes the Pokemon immune to ball and bomb moves. And then there's going to be a list on screen right now of all the ball moves affected. It's basically ridiculous. It's really convenient. You get the point. Not to mention as well, too, this thing does learn really good moves. It gets access to high horsepower, double edge. There's a brand new move called Headlong Rush, which basically lowers his user's defensive stats, but you don't take any recoil, which I'm very shocked. It's basically a weaker double edge, except lowering your defensive stats, which I don't necessarily like for sure. But double edge still is fantastic. High horsepower, which is great. It gets access to Play Rough and Bulldoze. Slash is not bad as well, too, because you have a high chance to crit, and it's stab base 70, not bad. Obviously, they did take out Earthquake, but, you know, obviously when Earthquake comes back, because it will in Generation 9, they still will have access to it. They give it a bunch of cool moves as well, too. Like, it gets access to setup, so it gets bulk up, which is insane, because a mon with this HP stat and this defense stat is very scary for bulk up. It gets all the punch moves, Ice Punch, Thunder Punch, Fire Punch, which is great. Like I said, Play Rough earlier, it's really nice for dragon types. Shadow Claw, it gets Stone Edge as well, too. The list goes on. The mon learns really nice moves. Honestly, my overall thoughts of Ursa Luna, I've even personally used her in my playthrough. She's very powerful. It's ironic to call her P-Block. F this mon. It took me 4 days to find a P-Block. But all in all, Guts and Bulletproof and the typing stats and everything, she's amazing and deserves a spot in number 5. Number 4, guys, this one might be a little bit of a controversial take, but I'm not seeing enough people talk about him, is Sneasler, the evolution to Hisuian Sneasel within the game. This thing is Toxicroak but on roids. Everyone knows this mon is because it's a mon that makes you look like Nezuko and Tanjiro when you're scaling mountains. But this thing, when I tell you I lost my mind and said I need to keep this thing on my team when I saw the leaks, because this thing's stats are ridiculous. 120 base speed and 130 physical attack stat. You don't need to look at anything else. Is the base 80 HP nice? Yes, because it basically means that you will not get one shot by the move depending on what the move is. If it's super effective, 9 times out of 10, you're probably dead. But the 80 HP is actually not totally terrible because it has 80 spin F as well too. So you may live like, I don't know, like a hydro pump, you know? Like you actually could. But overall, he's pretty frail. That's not what matters about him. What matters is just outrunning everybody in the game and shitting on them. His attack stat is almost as high as a Dragonite's, as a Salamence. Think about that. And its speed stat is almost as fast as a Greninja. Think about this, guys. Think about this. Poison fighting has always been a great typing offensively, but the problem is Toxicroak sucks. He's really slow. I'm being rude on him when he doesn't actually suck, but he has problems. And this thing basically got rid of Toxicroak's problems. You now no longer have a reason to ever pick Toxicroak over the thing ever again. Obviously for hydration, rain teams should be my guess, but you no longer have a reason. This thing is cracked. I wish they gave it new abilities though. It gets Poison Touch for a hidden ability, which I mean, I guess, and it gets pressure, but I mean like, doesn't really matter when, you know, you're a glass cannon and you're barely gonna be on the field. So I guess, but its typing is so scary. If this thing sets up Swords Dance, run! You probably lose. Well, in the battle style of Arceus, there's definitely ways to go around it, but you probably lose. Check it, right? He's times for weak to psychic. Very unfortunate. So many mons get psychic moves. If not, psychic types are very scary. So that one is very unfortunate. Weak to flying and weak to ground. So he has 3 weaknesses, 1 being quad. But let's look at the resistances. He's resistant to grass, fighting, poison, dark, rock, and bug, which is quad on bug. So his resistances are actually not terrible. I feel like resisting dark and resisting fighting and resisting to rock are fantastic because anytime you see a mon resistant to rock type, they also come into entry hazards a lot safer than a mon, let's say for example, like Charizard or Volcarona or Moltres. Rest in peace. So basically, this thing is very, very scary. Now, going into its move pool, this thing looks even scarier. They gave this thing close combat, Swords Dance, and Poison Jab. You really don't need to look at anything else. You really don't. Obviously, the biggest buff this thing will get, because Sneasel does get knockoff, it's a dark type before the Hisuian one, right? And most variants do keep their moves. This one will probably keep knockoff come Generation 9 when it's transferred. So expect knockoff, just go ahead and expect that. But Dire Claw is a very interesting brand new move, which basically aims to land a crit. There's a lot of moves in this game that basically give you a crit the following turn. It also leaves a target poisoned, paralyzed, or drowsy, which is the brand new sleep effect, which if you ask me, is absolutely insane. That is absolutely ridiculous. They're just buffing Hex to God knows what in this game, truly. Not to mention it also gets Drain Punch, it gets Bulk Up as well too. Don't really see a reason to run it, but pop off. It gets Aerial Ace, right? Moves like Iron Tail, the list goes on, Shadow Claw, X Scissor. So this thing is very, very scary. So honestly, I feel like I don't need to speak much on Sneasler. He's a very straightforward mon. Come in, run Choice Band. Come in, set up an SD, but you gotta set it up nice. Then you just absolutely go ballistic. The kid's scary. Don't sleep on him. He's deserved a spot number 4. It might be a little controversial, but I do think comes to the best slot for number 4. Number 3, I can't say this one is too surprising. You guys may be shocked to see him a little bit lower than you may have initially expected. I think Zorg, without a doubt in my mind, and I would be very surprised if anybody disagrees with this, earns a spot in number 3. Top 3 for sure. If you don't include legendaries, this is a top 1 mon. But unfortunately, legendaries are very scary. But the thing is, he can fight legendaries. He can keep up. Let's talk about it. He has the same problems as Sneasler, being frail, with an HP stat of 55, a defense of 60 in both stats. The problem is not that. Well, I lied. The problem is that. But the benefits severely outweigh. The kid has 3 immunities. First time we ever gotten this typing combination. You can ask any single competitive player or anybody who plays competitive who's watching this video and knows at least more than one thing of competitive, right? Normal ghost typing is a typing that we as competitive players have been afraid of and excited for a very long time. It is one of the best typings IMO. I'd say it's top 5. One of the best typings IMO in the game. very scary. Like, it's up there with like Steel Fairy. It's definitely up there for sure. So this thing has 3 immunities, and being immune to Ghost and Fighting is ridiculous. 2 of the best offensive typings in the game, and you just completely are null and void to them. They also buffed the absolute shit out of this mon. It went from 100, look at Zorg's stats. It went from 105 speed stat and 120 in special attack stat, right? Where they decreased its attack stat and decreased that HP stat, which you can obviously see as well too. It jumped now to a whopping 125 in special attack stat. And those 5 points in speed are so crucial because now you outspeed so many mons who are in that weird speed stat between 105, 110, or when you have to speed tie with somebody who is also 105, doesn't matter. Now you outspeed them. Basically, 110 now means you can run the thing choice specs free without worrying at all and just be able to murder your enemies, dude. 125 is ridiculous, almost at a 400 total special attack stat. He has 100 in base attack, so it's honestly, if you ask me, a fantastic mixed attacker, right? And this thing does get good physical moves, not to mention as well a base speed of 110, almost sitting at a rocking 350, kind of at the halfway point of 400. Absolutely ridiculous. This thing is insane. This is the way you build him on. This is the way you build them on. First time of a type of combination, absolutely amazing. Its moves as well too. It learns the craziest moves. It gets Nasty Plot by level up, Shadow Ball, Extra Sensory, Shadow Claw, a brand new move, Bitter Malice, which basically gives a target a status condition. And when they give them a status condition, the move power is doubled. So there's this thing in Legends of Arceus where they're making these moves deal status conditions, right? A chance. And then the move does more damage if their status. Same thing with Infernal Parade. This thing is ridiculous. And it gives them Frostbite, which if you don't know what that does, is Special Will-O-Wisp. It decreases special stats, decreases them entirely. So you're making them on weaker, you're dealing more damage, you're helping out your entire team because it's not just 1v1, it's 66. This thing is a monster. You look at its other moves and it learns that move tutor. Calm Mind, Dark Pulse, Flamethrower, Ominous Wind. The list goes on. Shadow Ball, Sludge Bomb. The covers are just ridiculous. The only thing that make me vomit is if this thing, if they gave this thing like Ice Beam and Thunderbolt, like Bolt Beam, then I would have definitely vomited, you know? Zorg also learns crazy moves like Focus Blast, U-Turn, knockoff, foul play, stuff like that. So there's no doubt in my mind that when these moves do come back, because they did remove a lot of moves from Legends of Arceus, so there's no way all the moves are gone permanently because they're also in Sword and Shield, right? So when these moves do come back, this thing is basically going to be even stronger. It's basically, if you guys remember playing Sword and Shield pre-Crown Tundra, where you had to deal with some mons not having some moves, some mons not even being around. It's a lot like that. So this thing will become a lot better when the moves show up. But Hisui and Zorg, easily a threat. I can see the thing being a monster in VGC, seeing it be definitely being a monster in singles for sure. But I think I rest my case. I feel like I don't have to explain more. You guys know this. Hisui and Zorg coming in the number 3 spot, but in my heart, number 1. Coming on the number 2 spot, you guys may not know much about this mon or have seen this mon, and I think it's definitely earned its spot to be this high. It's a new legendary Forces of Nature genie Pokemon similar to Lando, Thundy, Torn, Enamorous. This thing I think is absolutely ridiculous and roids, and I think when more people get to this mon in the story, because it's post-game, they will especially realize it. And I would love to have some discussion in the comments, guys, about anybody else that plays competitive Pokemon that wants to weigh in their thoughts on this mon. Fairy Flying, it's a second, obviously, of course, because Togekiss, I disrespected the thing hard. I'm sorry. Here's why it's broken. It gave it Contrary, which if you don't know what that does, that basically buffs moves that have a decreased stat. So let's say, for example, like Overheat. You're always getting buffed for Overheat. Or like Leaf Storm, it's always getting buffed. You know, like it's, or Superpower, the list goes on. It's always getting buffed. It's honestly insane. And with an amazing typing Fairy Flying, you're immune to Dragon and Ground, 2 of the most offensive and best typings in the game. You just straight up just ignore. You also resist Grass, and Fighting is ×4, Dark and Bug. So you resist 2 more of the best offensive typings in the game, being Dark ×2, I'm sorry, and a half, and then Fighting, which is quad. So the list goes on. The thing's typing is absolutely ridiculous. See it like a cracked Togekiss. It's got 115 physical attack stat, 106 speed, which is actually not bad. It definitely outspeeds mons that are sitting at 105. And this is where it gets crazy. 135 special attack stat. Yes, guys, 135. That means the thing overweighs 400, sitting at 405 for its maxed out special attack stat, which is absolutely ridiculous, man. it's insane. Not to mention as well, too, the thing gets really good moves. It gets Moonblast, Crunch, Extrasensory, Draining Kiss, right? Look at the move tutor moves. It gets Coal Mine, Dazzling Gleam, Earth Power, Mystical Fire, Play Rough, Psychic, and Sludge Bomb, and Zen Headbutt. This is ridiculous, man. This mod is insane. This mod is insane because physical attack side is really, really good as well too. So it's a really good mixed attacker. Obviously, if they gave this thing superpower, I'd be vomiting as well a lot more. The confusing thing about this mod in comparison to the previous ones we've seen before up until now, we don't really know what it's going to be learning in the future. Because this is an entirely brand new mod. If it gets moves like the genies, where it gets like Hurricane, I think almost every genie gets Hurricane, right, in Defog. So if it gets moves like that, if it gets Nasty Plot, right, like, we don't know. We actually don't know. We can only interpret it. I'd be surprised if it doesn't get like Focus Blast. I think all of them get Focus Blast. So I'd be surprised if it didn't. We'll just kind of have to wait and see. And obviously U-turn, they all get U-turn, right? So I wouldn't be surprised if they got very similar moves as all the other three get. But this thing is insane. Like, it's definitely very scary, and IMO kind of up there with Lando. But Lando having Sheer Force and more moves to abuse its Sheer Force, still the GOAT, still the king. But Inimorous is definitely up there. Not to mention, it has a Therian form, guys, which has the ability to overcode, which is actually not that bad as well, too. Had it have kept contrary with defensive stats like this, I would have lost my mind. Imagine if it still had contrary and a superpower buffing itself. It's Spinda on crack. Look at these stats. It kept the exact same HP stat, but the difference is that all of its defenses are buffed. All of them sitting at 100 speed def, 110 for defense, and they just yoinked the speed stat, which honestly I don't think really matters because the typing number one is just great. And now this thing is cracked with its insane stat distribution. Obviously, it still learns the same moves, but it's absolutely ridiculous. The moves are already fantastic. I feel like a Coal Mine Draining Kiss set, like some toxic stuff, even with like iron defense, right, would be absolutely ridiculous, dude. So I don't think I have to explain myself more. This thing definitely deserves a spot sitting at number 2. And the last but not least, guys, the Mons that's sitting at number 1 strongest Mons from Legends Arceus, it's the new Dialga and Palkia, man. I don't think these ones were a no-brainer at all. Don't think it was too shocking. Dialga and Palkia are already busted. You can look at their stats here, man. Busted typings, busted stats, the list goes on. Look at the resistances of Dialga. It's ridiculous. But they got brand new forms called Origin forms. Yes, I know. They look weird. I know. But here's the problem with them. They have absolutely found ways to juice these guys even further beyond. And it makes sense knowing how old these Mons are. They have origin forms. It makes sense Arceus bestowing power onto them. It makes sense. It makes a lot of sense, actually. Their typing was not changed, nor was the ability changed, right? They did obviously get bigger. But the difference, so as you guys can see, is for Dialga, he has a 120 now in speed def. So they made him more of the bulkier variant, right? That's really the only thing that changed was that 120 in speed def. And then of course Palkia, the big thing that changed with him is now that 120 is in speed. So if you want to know the better between the two, I'll probably end up making a video between that later on in the future. But for now, I think these guys definitely deserve number 1. I mean, the typing is ridiculous, man. Water Dragon is great, dude, right? Same with Dialga. Dragon Steel is one of the best typings in the game. Look at the stat distribution pool and look at the type defensiveness and everything he resists. I don't need to explain to anybody why this typing is so good. But I mean, you look at these stats, man. 150 in special attack stat, 100 in attack stat, man, 100 HP, 120 in both defensive stats, 90 in speed, which is actually not bad. It's 306 max. Is absolutely insane, man. Dialga still might have the similar problems of not being able to outpace some Mons, but I still think that the origin form is definitely a net positive because now you don't really worry about outpacing Mons because you're just even bulkier now. You know, do not underestimate jumping 20 whole damn points into its speed def stat. Look at everything resist. Psychic, Bug, Rock, Electric, Water. You see a common denominator with all these typings? A lot of them have busted ass offensive moves. So, like, now you just eat Psychics and Bug Buzz and Scalds and Hydro Pumps and Surfs way better, dude. Like, way better. And Hurricanes and Leaf Storms, you quad. Like, way better. And it does have an immunity of poison, which is fantastic. This does make this Mon a lot better because it's bulkier. They didn't take away any stats from Dialga. They only added. And the same thing with Palkia. They didn't take away any stats from Palkia. They only added. So that's why these Mons are even more roid cracked than they are before. I lied. It took 20 points from its attack stat and they put it into its speed stat. I lied. So I know there's gonna be a lot of comments about that. Looking into Dialga, they took 20 points from its attack stat and put it into its PDEF. So I lied. False alarm, guys. They did take away stats. Please don't kill me, right? I'm sorry. Regardless, besides the point, it doesn't really matter per se. Removing 20 points from a Mon that is mainly specialty offensive, as you can see from his giant stat. It's nice to be mixed, but the giant stat is the one that everyone looks at first, right? So you did, 100 is still not bad as well too, right? Still viable for sure. Same thing with Palkia. I feel like Palkia got an even bigger buff because being 100 base speed to 120, this is a whole different Mon. Same thing with Dialga. You can run them entirely different. They're actually so different, you know? Now you can run this thing choice specs instead of having to run Scarf Palkia in the rain. Or now you can run this thing like a bulky center upper, right? Versus having to like worry about speed tying some stuff or speed creeping some stuff, right? They obviously still kept this thing with bulk up. So, you know, bulk up Dialga is kind of stonks. At 100 attack stat is still not bad. Cry Me River, when you see the thing get Calm Mind, even the original one could not get Calm Mind. If this thing gets Calm Mind, I'm probably jumping off a bridge. It also does not get access to Nasty Plot as well either. So, I mean, I guess you could do like what? Like Work Up? Doesn't even get that either. I lied to you guys. So, yeah, when they give this thing Calm Mind, I'm probably going to jump off a bridge. But for now, they did not. So, bulk up Dialga is still viable if you want to do that, right? For sure. It does still get access to an incredible move pool. So, these guys never really had any big jarring flaws, right? Never really did. Palkia, this thing is even more roid crack now. The abilities are the same, obviously. I mean, what do you want me to say, man? Like, the kid's absolutely jacked, dude. You can choice scarf this thing and go ballistic. It gets Spatial Rend, Dragon Pulse, Earth Power, Thunderbolt, Ice Beam, Outrage, like Draco, Earth Power with a 150 special attack set and 120 speed. I don't know, man. These kids are just absolutely ridiculous. I don't know what Game Freak is sipping on, but when these guys are VGC allowed, it's kind of over. Because us Ubers guys, our singles guys don't got to worry about it. We don't really play Ubers that much, but I mean, hey, man. To each their own. But yeah, no, guys, looking at their stats, looking at what they resist and what they're strong against, and looking at their god tier move pools, I don't think it's crazy to say that Origin Form Dialga and Origin Form Palkia are definitely the #1 strongest Pokemon within the game. If you guys enjoyed the video and if you agree with me, make sure to leave a like down below and subscribe. If you guys want to see the Origin Form Palkia versus Dialga, I'll definitely make a video on that if we can get 500 likes, guys. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one.